On March 20th, 1864, the First Kansas Colored Infantry fought in a battle at Roseville Creek, Arkansas. This black infantry was the first to form and engage in combat in the North. Formed in August 1862 as the First Kansas Colored Infantry and redesignated on December 13, 1864 as the 79th U.S. Colored Troops, the recruits were freedom seekers from surrounding pro-slavery states like Arkansas and Missouri. Beginning in 1861, after Kansas was admitted into the Union as a free state, it became the first state to officially recruit African American soldiers. Brigadier General of Volunteers James Henry Lane employed Captain James M. Williams and Captain A.J. Armstrong to form a Kansas Colored Regiment. Lane recruited both Cherokee and Creek Native Americans and conducted raids in Missouri, destroying property and liberating enslaved men and women. Although this was illegal, Lane organized the 1st and 2nd Kansas Colored Infantry, enlisting 500 men by August 1862 at Fort Scott, Kansas. In a letter to the U.S. War Department on August 6, Lane wrote, "I am receiving Negroes under the late Act of Congress. Is there any objection? Answer by telegraph. Soon to have an army." The 1st Kansas Colored Infantry's first battle was at Island Mound on October 27 through 29 in 1862, which was the first notable battle for African Americans. Shortly to follow were the Battle of Honey Springs, the Battle of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, where 300 former slaves guarded the Pine Bluff Courthouse, and the Battle at Horsehead Creek. The 1st Kansas Colored Infantry was also the first African American regiment with black officers, Lieutenant Patrick Henry Minor and Captain William Dominic Matthews. William Dominic Matthews was born free and grew up in Maryland. He worked as a seaman until 1854, when he opened a boarding house with Daniel R. Anthony to aid in the Underground Railroad. After the Civil War began, Matthews enlisted early in the Independent Battery of the U.S. Colored Light Artillery in Fort Leavenworth and worked with Lane to recruit for the 1st Kansas Colored Infantry. Matthew was promoted to captain of Company D and hired Henry Copeland and Patrick Minor as his lieutenants. As African Americans, neither Matthews nor Minor would be commissioned as officers until 1864, when they became recruiting officers for Douglas's battery in Leavenworth and Wyandotte, named in honor of Captain Ezekiel Ford Douglas. Following the March 20th battle at Roseville Creek, Arkansas, the 1st and 2nd Kansas Colored Infantry marched with Union General Frederick Steele on his expedition from Little Rock to Camden, Arkansas, known as the Camden Expedition. The goal was to invade Confederate South Arkansas and northern Louisiana and gain control of Texas. From March 23rd through May 3rd, 1864, the 1st and 2nd followed Steele, fighting the Confederacy along the way. Steele was to meet up with General Nathaniel P. Banks and Rear Admiral David D. Porter to combine forces and take Texas. Both the 1st and 2nd Kansas Colored Infantries would go on to fight in the Battle of Prairie du Chien, the Battle of Poison Spring, the Battle of Jenkins Ferry, and the Battle of Flat Rock. Many of the 1st Kansas Colored Infantry were killed in the Battle of Poison Springs, with 182 black soldiers in total in the Battle of Fort Pillow. The 2nd Kansas Colored Infantry avenged the 1st Kansas Colored Infantry later in the Battle of Jenkins Ferry, charging the enemy with the battle cry, "Remember Poison Spring." Major General James G. Blunt later remarked, "I never saw such fighting as was done by that Negro regiment. They make better soldiers in every respect than any troops I have ever had under my command."